How are we doing? In this video, we're going to be walking you through step by step exactly how you can build a superhero physique in the next 6 months. In this video, I'm going to be giving you some of the key strategies behind some of the biggest transformations of my team so you can go ahead and apply it to yourself. I'm going to give you example workout structures, example training splits, literally going to give you as many parts of the recipe as I can so that you can use this to legit get yourself results like never before. So my promise is that this approach will get you the most jacked, the most quick that you possibly can, and give you an incredible platform with everything that you need for continued progress with your physique. Of course, there's only so much in this that I can, teach and apply to everyone at once. If you want something fully personalized for your specific needs and have me directly work with you to guide you step by step through this process, then you can feel free to DM me coach and I'll happily run you through exactly what my service offers and exactly how I can change your life with an incredible physique transformation. Let's get right into it. So first, laying out the objectives. What exactly are we trying to achieve here? Exactly in 6 months' time, I want you to be at the same body weight that you are at right now, but I want you to be a good chunk leaner, in better condition. What this means is if you are at the same body weight, but you're leaner, more of that body weight is coming from lean muscle mass. So you will be better conditioned and leaner and have more muscle by the end of this 6 months. I promise that is doable. You're going to have up to 5 pounds of new muscle in just 6 months. Now, that might seem like not a lot, but visually, that is an insane difference. For reference, I want to say that this was maybe like, these photos were a few years apart. At this point, I've already got a decent physique, and I want to say that that was maybe like 15 to 20 pounds of new muscle. So if in half a year, you can be well on your way to doing something like this if you follow this exact recipe. The truth is that you cannot gain muscle that quick. Patience and consistency is the name of the game when it comes to improving your physique and building a legit high-level elite physique, okay? Many coaches out there are going to promise you the world. They're going to promise you 10 kilos in 12 weeks. And the truth is that if you break this down really realistically and trying to frame this so that you already have good expectations and you know that I'm telling you the truth, I'm not going to bullshit you here, okay? If you could gain 10 kilos in 12 weeks, that's like 25 pounds, right? Multiply that by the rest of the year, you're talking 100 pounds of muscle in a year. Do you really think that that's doable? Because if you're 150 pounds lean now, then that would mean 250 pounds lean next year. That means that you should be on the Olympia stage. So don't listen to people who are promising you silly amounts of muscle gain. 5 pounds of new muscle is a very appropriate rate of progress in 6 months, and you can do that if you are at a certain level of advancement. What I will promise you is 25 plus kilos up on your key lifts. I'm going to show you how exactly we'll make that super predictable, and that is the main focus of your gaining phase. In a fat loss focus phase, the main focus is nutrition because it is an energy-driven process. In a gaining phase, however, muscle gain is a stimulus and signaling focused process. You need the nutrition to be at a base level so that you can facilitate those adaptations. But what is going to actually build all that muscle on your physique is going to be driving up your strength. That is going to be the biggest predictor, because this is where people get really impatient during a gaining phase. As I said, muscle gain is a slow process. But if you can focus on driving up your strength, then trust me, by the end of that phase, and when you diet down to show it off, you're going to have a good amount of new tissue there. This is also going to give you the platform for a cover model physique next year, okay? This is step one. Bulk up, get massive, and then you can show it all off. The biggest mistake that I see that stops people from getting that grainy, shredded, hard cover model physique is because they bulk up too quickly. They think that they can gain everything. They end up getting sloppy. They have to bail on their bulk before they've actually spent enough time driving up their lifts, gaining new tissue, and they diet it all off. And because you have to diet like hell, because you can't get into decent condition, because you can only lose so much weight in 8 to 12 weeks, you end up just running in circles with your physique. So if that sounds familiar, if you're tired of stalling with your progress, this is the process that is going to get you moving again. Now let's get right into it. Starting off with our just overall approach. What we like to do is exactly this process pretty much with our clients. If you don't have a coach to guide you through this process, you need to think like a coach. So step one, willingness audit. You need to figure out exactly what you are going to have on your plan, what you are willing to do. Of course, this is going to compromise results to a certain degree if you are not willing to do certain things. And that's why it's important to get crystal clear on your why and what you are willing to do to get there. So you're going to basically write out, I highly recommend if you don't already have a pen and paper on you, you're going to want it, because when we get into sort of the nitty gritty of training nutrition, you're going to want to take notes and apply this to yourself, right? But for now, are you willing to complete X amount of cardio sessions per week? Are you willing to either track all your calories through an like if it fits your macros approach and tracking, or follow a set meal plan? You need to be consistent with your nutrition. So what are you willing to do to make it as easily adherable and consistent as you can possibly be? Are you willing to go for early or late walks to finish up your steps? And are you willing to consistently eat 3, 4, 5 meals a day consistently? Because otherwise those missed meals will add up. Write yourself out right now a mission statement. What is the promise that you're making to yourself? What are you willing to do? What are you not willing to do to get the physique of your dreams and change your life with everything that comes along with that? If you're a coach watching this, remember that you've got clients potentially on the line tied to your physique and what you do with your time. So make yourself a mission statement, have a goal that you can be accountable to if you don't have someone externally to hold you accountable. Number 2, likes and dislikes breakdown. Understand that there are very few sort of clear-cut things that you must do. If you now write down your favorite carbs, fats, and proteins, you now have all the ingredients that you can go build out a meal plan from. I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do that in just a moment. There aren't any must-do exercises in the gym. There are certainly some better and worse ones. We're going to walk through some structures in a moment, but if you absolutely hate a certain exercise, you don't have to do it. Write down your favorite exercises, and then you've got the ingredients to build your training plan from. Don't do that right now, because I'm going to show you exactly which exercises you're going to want to choose. But this is to understand that there are very few must-dos when it comes to your journey. There are many ways to skin a cat. Assign a check-in day. What gets measured gets managed. We're going to go through progressing your body weight, progressing food, and you also want to kind of reflect on how that week's gone from a more qualitative process. How is your digestion feeling? How's your appetite feeling? You're going to have to run up food, so it's really worth assessing on a weekly basis how you're looking, how you're feeling. This is all that you need to then make the adjustments so you never stop progressing. That is key. If you aren't currently reflecting on exactly how things are going on a regular basis, you are wasting time. Map out all social occasions. You don't have to give up everything in order to get in shape, but you do at least need to prepare in advance so that you don't skip a beat with your progress. Have people hold you accountable. This can be so key for support. So many people let other people make decisions for them, let them run them off track. Have your tribe actually help you. And then number 5, map out expectations and timelines and actually allow some room to buffer. Those goals that we ran through just before, there's a reason that I can guarantee most of these results, right? Because I've actually been quite conservative. If you say in 16 weeks you want to do X, Y, Z, make that goal achievable in 14 to 15 weeks and try to get there in advance. Because that way you just account for contingencies. And if you do that, then you will make sure that by week 16, you've done exactly that, right? So, little case study before we get into nutrition. This is my client Tristan, made a wicked kind of result in just over a year. He went from a skinny fat gym bro to competitive natural bodybuilder. Many phases associated with this. This is not the position to start a bulk from. We're going to run through that in just a moment. So first, he leaned down. From that position, we entered an off season where he gained a bunch of muscle and then got into a contest prep to take it all off, reveal the improvements. Training was focused around his weaker body parts. So Tristan is 6'4", tall guy, still quite young, hasn't had all the years behind him to really fill out his frame. So for example, we ran him a back-focused training split to really prioritize that width, which really helped him have a huge presence on stage. When you are driving up your key lifts over a long period of time in a calorie surplus, you have the room to build a lot of muscle. So focus that around creating some specific body parts. I'm going to run you through how to do that later on in the video. Home-cooked, untracked meals. So this is our one of the ways that we integrate a hybrid approach for our clients. So Tristan had a meal plan for most of the meals in his day. Like most people, you creature of habit will often eat similar breakfast, similar lunch, but we had to work with like a bit of eyeballing for that final meal, or where possible, just tracking that final meal. So hybrid of a meal plan and some macro tracking so that we knew exactly what was going into him. Additional activities. He played American football for 2 teams. I'm going to run you through how you can make your training very, very solid and recoverable. I'm going to show you a full a full workout structure for one of the phases of training so that you can recover. Ensure that if you do have other activities on, you can recover from that and still make some awesome progress with your physique. And the outcome of that was he built a physique where he placed top 3 in his first bodybuilding show. Unreal, unreal achievement. So let's get right into this. Phase 1. Now, this is going to annoy some of you if you've come on here wondering how to build the most amount of muscle, because phase 1 is actually a mini cut. We're going to diet down for 4 to 8 weeks. That is phase 1 of this transformation process. Why is that? Because as I mentioned, most people will start a bulk without any abs. They want to gain muscle, so they jump right into a bulk. They eat everything in sight. Before you've actually had the chance to commit to a long-term period, you are going to bail on that and end up right back where you were before. So let's start things right this time. This is how you break the cycle. I've done this with loads and loads of clients. Tristan was a good example of that. I'll show you Louis in a moment. Trust me, this will pay off. I literally just yesterday posted my client Dylan on Instagram. In 10 weeks, he's completely reshaped his physique because he's now 4 weeks into a gaining phase, literally looks more muscular and leaner in the space of 10 weeks because he dieted down first. The key here is going aggressive, okay? You want to take off as much body fat as you can in 6 weeks so that you're not wasting time. If you want to build muscle, the number one thing you need is time. So don't waste it going slow and steady for the next like 12, 16 weeks. I want you to get in and out of this dieting phase. So you could potentially do that in just 4 weeks, okay? If you go for a rate of loss of 2.5 to 3 pounds per week, in 4 weeks, you could easily drop well over 10 pounds. You could go up to sort of like, 4 times 3, 12. You could be scratching 15 pounds in just 4 weeks if you wanted to go absolutely ham. If you are on the chunkier side and you need to take a little bit more off, 8 weeks, you could easily be dropping over 20 pounds in that period, okay? So this will set up the stage for a successful bulk. It means that you're actually going to be able to follow this entire plan through. And by the time you get through this whole transformation process, if you're still lean enough, you can continue bulking. So this is really about setting you up for future success, teaching you exactly what you need to transform your physique. How exactly are we going to do this? So calories, you could use a TDEE, that's a total daily energy expenditure calculator online, or for ease, you could just use a lean body mass multiplier. So if you couple that with an extra few thousand steps to drive that deficit a little bit harder, then you're going to give yourself a pretty decent rate of loss if you then put some cardio on top of that. The only thing that I haven't included in here is cardio, because on a person-by-person basis, you might have time to fit in a solid amount of cardio sessions, going back to the willingness audit. If you can do a little bit of cardio every day in a mini cut, then epic. You're going to be able to take off a bunch of fat really, really quick. If you can only get cardio done 3 days a week, still awesome. So depending on where you want to fall in this range, bit more cardio, cool. But we can still drive the deficit a little bit harder by bringing the steps up a few thousand and running with this. So lean body mass times 13 in pounds, I should say, will give you a good starting point for your calorie intake. Lean body mass times 1.2 in pounds, going to give you a decent setup for your protein. You want protein to be a little bit higher during this time because you're in a deficit. You really want to protect recovery, okay? So for an example, if you're 180 pounds and let's say that you're about 20% body fat or so, you're going to have roughly 150 pounds of lean body mass. So times 13, that's going to give you 1,950 calories, and times 1.2 equals 180 grams of protein. So that'll be about 1 gram per pound of body weight, or 1.2 per pound of lean body mass. If you're doing 6,000 steps per day on top of that, you're going to be running 9,000 steps. Weigh yourself every day for the next week. If you've perfectly adhered to the plan and rate of loss is expected, then keep going. If not, you are immediately after that first week going to drop by 200 to 300 calories, depending on maybe how much more. If you're on 2.2 pounds lost, then, maybe just topping up with another 200 calories. If you only lost, 1.5 pounds, then maybe you're going to want to go 300 calories added to that deficit. That way, we're going to ensure that we're not wasting any time and you can get to bulking ASAP. So now let's get into nutrition. As I said, bulking, the most important thing is actually your training, okay? But we do need that nutrition to be in a good spot where you have that solidified, because once that is standardized and all those other recovery factors are standardized, then the only thing that you need to focus on is your training and making things recoverable through your programming. There are only so many grams of protein you can eat per day, only so many hours that you can sleep. If you are not progressing in the gym and you have the basics of nutrition and sleep locked in, then it's a training problem. So, bulking nutrition. Number one, rate of gain. We're going to be going up 0.2 to 0.3 kilos per week. Now, I know that might seem quite low. If you average that out, that's going to be a kilo per month, 0.25 kilos per week, for example. So, a kilo per month. If you took off, let's say 6-week mini cut, and in that time you took off 15 to 20 pounds, that's going to be maybe like 7 kilos. If you bulked up then for, 7 odd months after that, gaining another 7 kilos, then that's how we are at exactly what I promised at the start, which is the same body weight in better condition. You've shredded down, you've gained a bunch of muscle, you're in way better condition, okay? So, reason we do this is, once again, because you can only gain muscle so fast. If you are gaining much more than this, then that is just going to be a ton of body fat extra that you're putting on that isn't necessary. And that's exactly how you spin your wheels with your physique, as I pointed out, stuck in that cycle that I talked you through earlier. So for that, we're going to want a 200 to 300 max calorie surplus. For a little kind of a starting point, body weight times 15 might give you a rough maintenance, body weight in pounds. And then keep steps consistent on top of that, okay? If you have calculated your calorie intake based on a certain amount of steps, then make sure that you don't let those steps run too low. Especially as we get into winter, you're going to want to skip those steps because it's cold outside. But remember that this calculation of a surplus and your intake is based on your current output as well. So you need to keep that consistent. I would even recommend 1 or 2 cardio sessions a week in a gaining phase for maintenance of cardiovascular health, and just topping up a little bit of expenditure. Also going to allow you to eat a little bit more food and just feel a load better, okay? 1 to 2 off-plan meals per week. I'm going to walk you through these in a little bit more detail, but for now, what you need to know is, yes, you can have some off-plan or cheat meals, but you still don't want to completely lack discipline, because we want to know what's going into us so that we can adhere nicely to this expected rate of gain. So be smart with those off-plan meals, frequency versus magnitude. If you've got a couple of meals planned out with the boys, maybe don't go for the double bacon, double cheese, double everything burger. If you've only got the one off-plan meal that week, maybe you can go a little bit harder and enjoy yourself. 3 to 5 meals per day, ideally. Can you get the job done with 2 to 3? Yeah, maybe, but when it comes to things like your digestion, having those huge meals with the food that you're going to have to take in during a gaining phase can be very hard on your digestion. It can be hard to find the appetite to get in that much food. So ideally, you're going to split that into 3 to 5 meals per day based on your body weight times 15 plus 2 to 300. You now have that to split into the meals of your choice. I'm going to give you some meal ideas in just a moment. Protein, 2 to 2.5 grams per that should say kilo, sorry, not pounds. 2 grams to 2.5 grams per kilo of lean body mass. That's going to be roughly 1 gram to 1.2 grams per pound of lean body mass. 80-20 rule. When you are designing your meal plan, if your foods get super, super high, you might need to incorporate a little bit of junk in there to help you reach those calories. So I'd go by the 80-20 rule. At least 80% of your calories should come from nutritious whole foods, and then some less nutrient-dense, more palatable, tasty foods to help you meet those calories quite easily if you get to the point where you're just running out of room to eat. Now we're going to move on to fueling our sessions. So going to give you a little bit of a deep dive into nutrition around your training. So Pre-workout, assuming that we're spacing out our protein fairly evenly, which can be a good idea for digestion, you're going to run 0.4 grams to 0.5 grams per kilo of lean body mass in that meal. Why? Because if you've got a goal of 2 grams per kilo of lean body mass for the day, if you're splitting your meals into 5 meals, you're going to need 5 times 0.4. If you're splitting it into 4 meals, you're going to need slightly bigger protein intake per meal for fewer meals. Now, this is where you could stay on the smaller side, if anything. This is the one meal that you might not need to run quite that much protein. If you meet a 25 gram threshold from a bioavailable source, this means not having 4 bagels pre-workout. This means 25 grams of that protein comes from a complete protein, like, a meat, or if you're vegetarian, tofu, something like that. But the reason why you might want to keep this one on the smaller side is you want digestion to be really, really good around your training so that you can perform to the best of your abilities. So if eating much more protein does start to give you a lot of bloating and stuff like that pre-training, this is the one meal where you might want to kind of strip that back a little bit. As long as you meet that threshold to maximize the muscle protein synthesis response, you're good. Carbs. This is the most important meal of the day from a carbohydrate perspective. Even when you are starting out your bulk, the amount of food that you're having, you should have room for a good gram per kilo of lean body mass for carbs in that meal. So if you're 80 kilos, maybe let's say 70 odd pretty lean, maybe you could have right off the bat 70 grams of carbs at least in that pre-workout meal. You could run that up to 3 grams per kilo easily, okay? Lower GI carbs are preferable. Rice, potatoes, oats, nothing like too sugary, as you don't want a massive spike in your blood glucose. You want good sustained release throughout your workout to give you good energy. And to aid with that, you might even want a little bit of dietary fat in that pre-workout meal to slow digestion and lower glycemic load. It's going to ensure that your blood glucose doesn't drop off like crazy and then you're feeling awful during your training. Post-workout, once again, similar amount of protein, maybe even a larger serving here to kind of compensate for that pre-workout meal. Still 25 grams or more from a bioavailable source. Carbs, this is going to be context dependent because depending on the amount of food that you've got available to you in your daily intake, this is your second priority for placement. This is going to be the second most important meal of carbs to help replenish glycogen. You're going to want them to be a little bit more faster acting here, and fats are also going to be minimal so that you can have quicker uptake of those carbs. But the reason I say context dependent is because this is where you're going to want to put more carbs ideally compared to some of your other meals throughout the day. But if you could, there's a bit of room to maneuver. This isn't quite as important as your pre-workout meal. So if you wanted to drive up the carbs, much more during this meal first, and then once you kind of cap that out, start adding a bit more to some of those other meals throughout the day, you could do that, or you could keep things a little bit more even depending on what your overall intake of carbs is looking like. Once again, this is where I can only give you sort of some general rules. If you want something a little bit more personalized, feel free to let me know. I'll literally work out exactly what you need to eat, how much, and give you some awesome hybrid strategies so you can make things effortless. Meal ideas. So what I've written down here are nice tasty meals. I haven't written just beef and pasta because the trick to a gaining phase is season your damn food. It's worth noting that a lot of carb sources are equated in terms of their calories and macronutrient composition, okay? 50 grams of rice, 50 grams of pasta when you're all dry, couscous, are all going to have very, very similar carb and calorie composition. So what does that mean? It means that if you built yourself a meal plan and you wanted to get X amount of protein, maybe you needed 200 grams of a lean protein source to get there, you could probably swap out those protein sources. You could run in that meal. This is another example of the hybrid plan, okay? You could, if you had 200 grams of chicken breast, you could just have 200 grams of lean mince. It'd be pretty much the same. You don't have to go track the calories. It's all going to fall pretty much in line. Once again, if you sorted yourself a carb portion, like one large wrap, that is going to have the same calories and carbs as 50 grams of those other carb sources that I told you about. So pasta bolognese and chicken wraps, you could easily swap without having to like calculate exactly how much you need, just based on the portion sizes. And that means that you can make some damn tasty foods, because another key is that most of your damn meals, most of the foods that you like are literally just chicken, rice, and veg. Yeah. So many people like curry, like stir fry, like Spanish dishes like paella, right? If you break it down, that's literally chicken, rice, and then all that you're doing is, if you prep those with one day you used some certain vegetables and certain seasonings and sauces, next time you prepped, you did different veg, different seasonings and sauces, you have a super wide array of meals. So use that to your advantage in your gaining phase. Season your damn food. Breakfast ideas. Want to make sure that you're getting in some protein at breakfast. Get you a nice head start on your protein intake for the day. Huge mistake that I see is that people just have a bowl of cornflakes for breakfast. Not ideal when you're trying to gain muscle. Eggs and bagel, protein oats. Particularly useful one if your food is running very high. Liquid calories can be really, really ideal. So a shake, oats, protein, pretty much everything that you put into like, protein oats, just blend it up, especially if you're out on the go, can be really, really useful. Cheat meals, a deeper look at that. Now, the main difference between a cheat meal in a gaining phase versus a cheat meal in a dieting phase is you can now just let it replace your meal. It's accounted for in your slower rate of gain. As long as we're playing things conservative and not eating everything under the sun, then a little spike in your intake, if you're very consistent over the course of the week, isn't going to take you that far off average, so it's accounted for. Compared to when you need to calorie bank and actually budget for a cheat meal if you're in a dieting phase, this is actually now a phase where you can be a little bit more relaxed and just replace a meal with it without overthinking. As I said, do not let this become a habit. Keep it to 1 to 2 times per week. Otherwise, you still want the good discipline if you want to see through a consistent long-term gaining phase where you actually, make some solid progress for once, okay? I am a massive foodie, and this is exactly what has allowed me to have burgers like this. This is actually the Born Slippy from Fat Hippo, but if you go to the highlights in my Instagram, you'll see a bunch of cheat meals, and these tactics are exactly what allowed me to do that. Basically just being moderate with it and taking things slower in a gaining phase. So, quick case study time. This is Louis, and this is a wild, wild transformation. So he started off with a mini cut to prime for growth. This is Louis right after a mini cut. He started off a little bit more soft, and this was what he needed to have room to grow. Because from there, we executed a 6-month growing phase. We first did a phase to specialize on some of his weaker body parts, bring them up to balance, and then went into an all-out mass-focused phase before we dieted him down for 6 weeks and got him in cover model shape, shredded, grainy, hard, showing off those improvements. Unreal work. Louis was extremely busy. He owns multiple businesses. He's a coach himself. Before he started, he felt like he couldn't really walk the walk. He'd been training for 10 plus years at this point. So with our specific training structure, we finally got him to make the progress of his life, level up his physique like crazy to the point where he annihilated any self-doubt and felt that he improved himself. Finally felt proud and confident of the physique that he built, felt proud that he could actually take that forward through his business and show people that he could walk the walk, impact more people. So this was an unbelievable, unbelievable success story. And that is why I want to now talk you quickly through my Physique Mastery Program. This is a new program that we've been working on, guys. If you give me just a couple of minutes, this can change your life, okay? So we've been putting something seriously, seriously special together. I've invested tens of thousands into my training, nutrition knowledge. George and I have 10 plus years of combined experience in the industry, generating incredible, incredible results, which is the key to a successful coaching business. Especially if you're a coach watching this, this is the program for you. If you are a quite experienced lifter and you want to level up for the rest of your life and learn the keys in the next 6 months, let us walk you through this process, okay? My promise is that the training will be the best it has ever been for you with my Pinnacle training system. This is a multitude of evidence-based principles that I have piled into my overall training approach. So you will learn the key structure for the most effective workouts. You'll learn everything that there is to know about progressing like never before with your training. We will show you everything that you need to lock down your nutrition and make that super, super consistent for yourself and your clients by using things like some of our hybrid nutrition strategies, some of the things that I've already walked you through, different meal options, different hybrids of macros and meal plans. Walk you through all these nutrition strategies that you can implement for yourself and your clients. We have been building a library full of videos. Everything, what isn't on here isn't worth knowing when it comes to training, nutrition, all of that good stuff. So you'll have access to dozens and dozens. I'm trying to think of how many are on there at the moment. I've lost count. Dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens, right? We have built out everything from our 10 plus years of experience so that you have all the strategies, recovery, training, nutrition, even when it comes to actually managing client accountability and adherence and check-ins. What this program is all about is if you are a coach or someone who wants to progress to the highest level, you will work directly with me so that I will provide you with a fully personalized approach. So you will get to learn exactly how I do things and apply. You will be able to learn all the theory behind that so that you can get yourself incredible results. You can get your clients incredible results, and you will leave with your physique the best that it has ever been. In the next 6 months, I will literally guide you through this exact process in a more personalized way that you are watching on this webinar, and you will gain lean muscle and completely transform your physique in that time. You've seen what we can do. If you wanted to just focus on getting shredded, maybe doing a photo shoot prep, you could easily drop 30 pounds. You probably don't need the full 6 months for that. But you can get absolutely shredded in the next sort of 16 weeks or so. You will be able to lead from the front and build confidence as a coach. You will be able to learn things to level up your client results so that you can boost your marketing, you can boost your client's lifetime value. If this is something that you want to know a little bit more about and it has sparked your interest, I would love to have a chat further and show you exactly what it entails. If you are interested, DM me the word mastery for more info. Now, let's get to the fun bit, training. So phase 2, you are now leaner. You have set yourself up in terms of nutrition, ready to rock for the gaining phase. This is phase 2 of the transformation process. Now we're actually gaining. We're going to get into our training. So this is going to be a phase of all-out mass. This is about riding up your strength, getting you strong as an ox. Here are the training splits that you have available for this phase. You're going to run an upper-lower. There are a few ways that you can lay this out across the week if you wanted to have your weekends free, or if you wanted to have a little rest day between one of the upper and lower sessions if they're particularly taxing. So you have a few options there. What you're going to do is you're going to pick 5 to 6 exercises per workout. I'm going to show you which ones in just a moment. 2 to 3 of those are going to be compounds. 2 to 3 of those are going to be isolations. For upper workouts, I'd recommend 3 compounds. For lower workouts, I'd recommend 2 compounds and then 2 to 3 isolations for each of those workouts. You're going to do 2 to 3 sets per exercise, and each of those sets you're going to do 5 to 10 reps. Why? 5 to 10 reps is a really, really good sweet spot. Now, you want a range because you want to be able to train your muscle to failure and progress. And 5 to 10 reps is a really good range for that because those very, very high rep ranges, 10 plus in particular, come with lots and lots of fatigue. The stimulus is the same, but if you want to slash your recovery time down and come into the gym nice and fresh and lifting heavier weights every week, then you are definitely going to want to stick to the lower rep ranges. So especially for compounds, that might be more like 5 to 8. For isolations, maybe more like 6 to 10. Okay, if you're not comfortable doing those isolations in the very low rep ranges, cool, but I definitely wouldn't do too much in the very, very high rep ranges. This is a key hack. If from now until end of the year, you put, as I said, 25 kilos on your 5 to 10 rep max, your physique will look very, very different. And this is the exact structure that I want you to use to do that. So for this phase, I'm literally now about to walk you through putting the entire training plan together. I want you to get your pen and paper right now, and I want you to think of 2 chest presses. Preferably, one of those is going to be a machine. If you are particularly inclined towards something like a flat bench, feel free to have that as one of them, but one of these I want as a machine, please, ideally. You're going to pick 1 fly variation. You're going to pick 1 lateral raise, 2 rows, 1 vertical pull down, so a pull down or a pull up, a curl variation and an extension variation for your arms, and then a shoulder press. For your lower body, you're going to pick 1 to 2 hamstring curl variations. If you've only got 1 available, you can run with those for both leg workouts, that's cool. 2 squats or presses, 1 hinge, 1 thrust. An extension and a calf raise aren't really optional, you kind of need them. So if you don't have a leg extension, you're going to struggle a little bit. I suppose you could do a sissy squat if you really needed, and then a crunch variation for the abs. Now, going back to the structure of 5-6 exercises per workout, here is what your one of your upper sessions could look like. You take your shoulder press, you got a vertical pull in here, you got a fly variation to top up pec work. This is a bit more of a shoulder and back focus session. One of your rows and one of your laterals. That means that then for your B session, you've got those other exercises to put towards there. So once again, then depending on that, you've got 2 to 3 compounds and 2 to 3 isos. You're going to do 2 to 3 sets of each of those and 5 to 10 reps per set. There you go. Now go figure out the rest of your training plan, pause this video, and then we'll continue. Every workout, you're going to strive for more weight or reps. This is imperative so that you can gain as much muscle as possible. You've got a few strategies to do this. I'm going to give you multiple because most people will only tell you one, and that is why you plateau and are still lifting the same weight that you did 6 months ago. So, number one is the rep range. This is why we use a rep range, not a rep target, because if you allocate 5 to 8 reps for a set, you get 6 reps on your first try. Next week, you're going to get 7. Week after that, you're going to get 8. When you get to the top of that rep range, you're going to bump up the weight a decent bit and then start again, because that's going to knock down your reps a little bit. If you wanted to, or if you stall, you could use a micro-loading approach. This is going to be where you make much smaller jumps, and that will allow you to maintain the amount of reps, and you just slightly bump up the weight each week. This can be really useful to manage jumps so that you aren't like knocking your reps right back down, because this is what a lot of people won't tell you and is a fault with the rep range progression scheme, okay? A 5 rep max to a 6 rep max and adding a rep is a big percentage jump in terms of your performance. What that would do to your estimated 1 rep max and your overall strength requires, a decent amount of muscle to be gained. So to manage that and those smaller adaptations, microloading can be a mega useful tool. So if you stall, next workout, maybe don't try to jump up another rep, maybe try adding a 1.25. If you added just 2 kilos, right? So let's say you even found some smaller plates. Let's say you just found a 1 kilo plate. You put one of those on either side every single week. 16 weeks later, you're looking at 32 kilos. Crazy, right? That's how I guarantee that you've done exactly what I promised you at the start. That's going to put some serious muscle on your physique, and it accounts for some contingencies. Because remember what I said? 25 odd kilos on your lifts. So yeah, I said 32 here, and that's how I guarantee that you'll put 25 kilos on your lifts. If you are struggling to progress, if you're plateauing, there's a good chance that you're doing too much volume, so go assess the training sessions that you built up. And of course, as I said, if you need a bit more assistance, feel free to come to me. I will write you a fully personalized training plan, ensuring that you can get results like never before. If you drive up things 25 kilos, like using these strategies in a standardized manner, you will get a lot bigger. Do not compromise the mechanics, because that will effectively change the entire exercise that you're doing. If you start bouncing the weights when you were previously doing them controlled for the sake of getting more reps, that is not going to build you muscle. That is not a level playing field to assess how you're progressing from. So, phase 3, specialization now. Now you are a ton bigger. You've driven up your lifts by a decent amount at this point. You're still nice and lean. You've been bringing up your body weight a decent bit. Now we're moving on to specialization. We're going to bring up those weaker body parts that maybe weren't responding quite as well as you'd hoped through that all-out mass phase, leading to now at the end of this phase, the full transformation process. You're now back to your previous weight, a bunch leaner, super strong, and with a balanced, awesome looking physique. So instead of giving you workout structures here, because it is going to be very person dependent in terms of how you program things, I'm going to give you a few different splits that you could use for different muscle groups. So once again, if you want the full structure, feel free to DM me, because I would need to work this out on a very personalized basis. But here's an example of a split that you could use for, arms and chest focus, okay? So when it comes to lagging body parts, one of the main things that is holding you back is reduced motor unit recruitment. Reduced motor unit recruitment means less active fibers that are going to experience mechanical tension and therefore are not going to get the stimulus to grow. So what you need is training things nice and fresh. So that is where having, like a chest and delt focus session, and then, delts being left on the back burner, and then a full arm session can be super beneficial. Same deal with back. As you can see, we're running up the frequency a little bit by tagging them on with, some muscles that are maybe a little bit more developed on us, so that we can get a little bit more fresh work for those throughout the week, potentially modulating frequency and volume to facilitate some more effective reps and first sets, which are going to be more effective. Here is an example of a much higher frequency split that you could use. Understand that the higher your frequency, the more selective you're going to have to be about how you program it, because recovery is going to have to be pitch perfect to make this work. This is also why I say that it needs to be super, super personalized to the individual, because this is where the structure of each workout is going to be important, and I am going to give you some of my hacks here. So you can train muscles at different lengths. Shorten, more contracted, or lengthen, more stretched. More stretched position movements are going to come about with more fatigue. They're going to take more time to recover from. So you're going to pencil some of those into a session. You're going to leave more days between your next session versus that session and the top-up session. These, you want to be more short focus movements so that you can recover nice and quick. That would allow you 48 hours later to train something again. So this is why I say your training programming must be perfect if you're going to run a higher frequency split. Final case study. This is my man Sean. Unreal transformation. Multiple phases ran through to get here. We had some phases of specializing things for his arms with a split similar to what I showed you. We had some phases focused around his back and width, similar to the split that I showed you. So it shows that eventually you can bring everything up to balance, run some more kind of all-out mass focus phases, and soon enough, you could be looking at a serious transformation. He then finally executed a solid fat loss phase with the use of our hybrid nutrition strategies, using some macro tracking to work in some fakeaways when mostly using a meal plan, allowed him to get into silly shape, eliminated imposter syndrome, and built authority by developing a sick physique, better coach leading from the front, and gaining the knowledge to get even better results for his clients. So if you want results like Sean, like Louis, this is failing, and like Tristan and so many others, then once again, feel free to DM me for more info on the mastery plan. It'd be fucking awesome to work with you and take your physique and business to the next level. But otherwise, guys, I want to thank you for watching this video. Really appreciate you tuning in. I do hope you've been able to take something from it, and I look forward to hopefully working with you soon. Cheers.